Australia. Welcome to Psychic TV International Thursday night and evening with Psychic TV. It is a pleasure to have your company tonight. Where you're watching from, I'm in lovely cold Melbourne, so I definitely, if you can hear background noise, it's because I've got the heater on. I'm sorry, but it's just too damn cold. We have the absolutely beautiful Louise on tonight. She's a new psychic to Psychic TV platform, so I'm excited to get to know her. So I'll be learning about her as much as you are tonight as well. So if you are watching, do say hello so we know you are actually there. If you can like and share this page as well, it just helps to reach more people, and you never know, there's someone out there that potentially could grab some great advice tonight. So if you can share this page, Gayleen, good to see you in the thread there. Hello and welcome. Madeline, here we go. I know, strap yourself in, put the kids to bed. It's a Thursday night. Anything's possible. We are live. But if you do want to do, so we are doing psychic readings. So for those, I think by now, most of us should know what's going on. Veronica, good to see you. Missed you last week. What was I going to say? Yes, we've been going for a few weeks now, so hopefully you are aware we don't do psychic readings tonight. That is for Harry T on Saturday night for your free mini readings. Tonight, we get to know our psychic on a deeper level, but we do welcome any spiritual general questions that you might have. So depending on what Louise talks about, if there's something that you want to know about, pretty much anything spiritual related. So it's not personal psychic readings tonight. It is just generic spiritual based questions. We do encourage those as well, but do like and share so we can reach as many people as possible. Of course, you can go to psychictvaustralia.com if you'd like a not mini reading, just an actual reading. We have Natalie Nornbeck on pin 9810, and she's all there by herself. So hopefully a few others do jump on in the meantime. But you can call Natalie if you wanted. But all the fun is here tonight. What's been going on? It's a full moon this Saturday, so it's going to be interesting. We're heading into a Capricorn full moon, so a lot of you might be feeling, I know I'm definitely feeling something. Last full moon didn't affect me as much. I didn't even realize it was a full moon. That's how much it didn't affect me, because you all need to know. But this one's definitely, I'm feeling its pull and its energy. So interesting times are happening. Of course, hi Kathy, good to see you. I'm also hosting this Saturday night Psychic TV as well. So you get to see this pretty face twice this week. So aren't you very lucky? But it is a pleasure to have your company tonight. Again, like and share, say hello, ask your spiritual-based questions. I'm going to bring my guest of honor on tonight, so please welcome Louise. Hello.
Hello. Hi, Michael.
It's got this cough all of a sudden. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
And thank you for coming on. So as I mentioned, you are relatively new to the Psychic TV company platform.
Yes, that's right. And I actually think that this path chose me as opposed to me choosing it.
As in the company or your psychic abilities?
I think, well, yeah, certainly my psychic abilities.
Interesting. Yes. Okay, we'll go deep into that then, because I'm quite interested. But let's start off with, what type of psychic are you and how do you work?
So I get a lot of impressions, sort of mental impressions, visual kind of stuff. Also a lot of feelings, sensations. I kind of channel things, and I also work with cards as well. So I work with the tarot, with the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. Sometimes the Marseille tarot, and I also do Lenormand oracle cards as well.
Okay, bit of a variety there. I love that. Hi Catherine, she's saying hello to you. Hi Lisa, hi Kathy, hi Joanne, and then everyone's just saying hello to each other in the thread. It's a bit like a family here on a Thursday night. Everyone, you get the same kind of people coming on, and they generally tend to get to know each other through the thread, so they all start having their own private conversations. It's quite cute. Let's have our own conversation. So you mentioned just before then about the gift choosing you. Elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by that and how that happened.
Yeah, so I guess for me, for a long time, I always felt things, but I just thought it was my stuff. So if I suddenly felt uncomfortable, I would just think, oh, it's me, this person's smiling, like that person must be very happy, and I just never, yeah, it took a long time for me to actually be able to differentiate. This is my stuff and this isn't my stuff.
How did you
It was
work that out?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And it was kind of a mixture of sort of life experience, really. I also always had a very strong interest in spirituality. I lived in London a good few years ago. It was sort of, early 2000s. And there was quite a big sort of mind, body, spirit scene in London at the time. There was a lot of workshops, a lot of courses. And I was just always interested. That was all I, that's what I wanted to do at the weekend. I wanted to go to a workshop, or to buy a new mind, body, spirit type of book, or it was just always an interest. And then the actual ability, I won't call it a gift, because I actually think that all of us have this. All of us have the
Right.
ability to kind of tune in to different states of awareness. And in actual fact, we do it every night. As soon as we fall asleep,
Right.
we go off, and we go into various different states of being and awareness, different realms. And then obviously, we wake up in the morning and we think, oh, this is reality. um, but
I do that
yeah,
quite often.
yes. But I think we just need to remind ourselves, and that's what I feel is the purpose of having this ability to sort of tune into certain things, is just to remind us that we're spiritual beings having a human experience and not the other way around. So yeah, it was just always a keen interest, and then various life circumstances as well kind of led things to become opened up.
And it's usually the case. I mean, I have been doing this for long enough now, and I've also been interviewing people, not just for this show, but just throughout my career and that. And there is such a common ground. I say this, I've been saying this almost weekly now on this show, is that sometimes it does take either a trauma or something that we're going through to really kind of either wake us up to this ability to be able to do it to help others, or to actually for it to kick in. I mean, some people, yes, are born and they've got it growing up. They know they've got the gift and they're already working, from early on. But then there's this big other half that really takes something, and it's just quite interesting that yeah, you've obviously got that similar story there.
Yes, I have. And for me, it was various things that happened in life. And it was almost as if the years and years and years of sort of, it was almost like a preparation in a way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I lost my sister. She was only 40. And that seemed to sort of kickstart a lot of changes. I also did Reiki. I was attuned to Reiki, and that was before I lost my sister. But the having the attunement to Reiki, that really did seem to open things up as well. And I kind of had to make a lot of lifestyle changes, which I hadn't been expecting. I just suddenly, I don't know what it was. I just became very sensitive to things, and certain foods I couldn't have anymore. And yeah, that really,
Oh.
I wasn't expecting that at all. Although the lady who attuned me to Reiki, she was very good actually. She was very scientific. She was actually doing a PhD in astrophysics. So she was pretty good at sort of explaining, kind of energetically, what may have been happening.
Oh,
And
okay.
you know, she did say, look, you know, that this is a very transformative process, you know, but yeah, it definitely was
How
for
did it with your ability, like not just with the Reiki, but also with the psychic stuff that you do, how did that change you?
Well, I just became aware that I started to let go of the skepticism, because the problem with me was that I was quite scientific as well. I was quite sort of,
Ah,
oh, it can't, it was almost as if I was just trying to shut it down. You know, and I think spirit kept trying to give me evidence and signs and whatever else. And, you know, for whatever reason, I just wasn't ready, or I maybe was a bit fearful about opening up to it. And then I did a workshop at the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain in London. And that place, it has, I'm sure you know, you've heard of it. It's got a very long sort of history. Beautiful, beautiful old building in London. I did a workshop there, and I had this mediumship sort of experience that was completely unexpected. It just blew me away.
that you had
um,
personally.
yes, that's right. Because
What was it?
yeah, so basically, the man who was doing the course, he was an excellent medium. He was a lovely man as well, very, very kind. And so he was sort of preparing us, you know, doing some exercises to sort of open up the energy centers. And then he paired us off in the afternoon. And I was just at the time thinking, well, I'm not really sure what's going to happen here, but you know, let's just see. So I was basically paired off with a Canadian lady. And he said, just close your eyes and just talk about, you know, anything that you pick up on. Or, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw, it can only be described as a sort of animated kind of image. It was a bit like a very creative sort of animation. It was, the colors were sort of blue and white, and a little boy kind of came forward. I had my eyes closed, obviously, and he was saying, "Come here, come with me, come with me," as if to say, "Don't be scared, you know, just follow me." So I just kind of mentally sort of followed him. And he was pointing to this, it looked like a white, silvery shape. And he was just pointing, and I thought, why is he pointing to that? You know, what's this? And then I saw this very old sort of wrought iron gate. So I just said to the lady, I said, look, I have no idea what this is. I just explained about this little boy. And then she actually said to me, you know, I know who he is. I've had readings and he has come through before. He he sadly died under the ice, and because a long time ago, you know, children used to go ice skating on ice and icy
Yeah.
lakes, things like that. And she said, I know, you know, and the gate was her property. She lived in a big old sort of French style Canadian house. And I was just blown away. And even
That's
after it
quite
happened,
detailed. I love that.
yeah, I couldn't believe. I just thought that, you know, how was it, the energy in the room, or you know, it just yeah, it was quite mind-blowing. But the thing was, I want to point out, I mean, obviously that sounds very heavy, but this little boy, he was so light-hearted, you know, he was just like, come on, you know, he was trying to play. And it just goes to show that, you know, when people pass into spirit, I think it's the people who are left behind to pick up the pieces who
Mm.
feel that heaviness. You know, it's yeah, so that was absolutely mind-blowing.
I love that. And it is true. Like, we in the living on the earth plane, are sort of, I mean, as humans, though, we are going to mourn and we are going to feel human things. And it's so true. Spirit is like living their best life, basically. It's such a lighter energy. So even if they have passed from traumatic situations or whatever it might be, they don't carry that on, in the spirit, but we kind of do.
Exactly. That's absolutely right. And that was something, a big lesson for me about grief, um, was that it feels like there's a part of you that goes when you lose somebody. There's like a part
Mm.
of you that's unique to the interaction or the relationship that you have with the person. So it's about grieving the loss of the person. It's also about grieving the loss of that unique connection that you have.
Yeah, definitely. And even too, like, you've probably heard this analogy, or just in general from the work that you've done, but even like in a romantic sense, in a romantic relationship, when that ends, like a marriage, you grieve that too. You feel like a part of you dies, especially if you've been with that person. Well, actually, I'm not going to pull a rule onto it, because short or long term, you've got a connection with someone and then they leave. It is almost like it is a loss. And I think a lot of us, especially in my experience with reading, is that we do need to kind of grieve the loss as a human, but not obviously get stuck, because there's no rule, there's no time frame. You kind of do grieve forever in a sense, but we do have to find that balance of being able to move on and continuing on our best life as well.
And that's absolutely right. And with my sister, it was almost as if I had a duty to. She wasn't given the time that I've been given. So it's almost like I need to kind of make the most of it, because none of us, we're not getting out of here alive. So
I love that. I absolutely love. Oh my god, I am stealing that quote of yours. We're not getting out of here alive. It's so bloody true, though, isn't it?
it
We're
is.
not.
The way that we limit ourselves, we can be very hard on ourselves. So we do need to remember that none of us are getting out of here alive. So we really do have to make the most of the time that we have.
And it's true. And we say it all the time, live the best life, live like it's the last day, blah blah. Like, there's so many different quotes and examples of that sort of metaphor of living. Um but it's so true at the same time, like, I'm actually stunned by that quote. We're not getting out of here alive. Is that something you've heard, or did you make that up? Because I love it.
I'm sure I heard it somewhere, but I,
Somewhere,
I,
yeah.
I love quotes. I absolutely love quotes. Like in my bathroom, next to the mirror, I've got the words, "This too shall pass." Because I
Right.
need to remind myself that whatever it is that you're experiencing, if you're experiencing having a bad day, or you're kind of experiencing a challenge, even the happy times, you've got to keep reminding yourself that life is always about change. That's why the I Ching is called the Book of Changes, because we're constantly going through cycles and changes. So that's the nature of this reality.
Yeah, it's so true. You have definitely surprised me, that's for sure. I was not expecting, but I love learning new things and speaking to new people as well. And I hope you watching as well are learning something. So do say hello to us. Hi to Beth, Kylie. There's a few of you jumping on there. Do share this page if you can. Like I said, you just don't know who might need to hear something that we discussed, that some random person that you've shared the page to goes, oh my God, I need to hear that. Madeline has said, I say this all the time, great words of advice. So she loves that as well. So yes, do say hello, do share this page if you possibly can. Hi Chantal, good to see you there as well. Learning a lot tonight. We've actually, Catherine has actually asked, does all the energy become too much at times?
And I think that is a great question. And it's a question of really finding ways to, I won't say close it down, because I don't think we can ever completely close energy down, but it's finding ways to be more resilient and to be able to handle, whatever energy it is. And it's about self-awareness as well. Know thyself. Sorry, I'm coming out with them all tonight,
No,
Michael.
I'm a writer, so I actually love quotes.
Yeah, it's about knowing yourself. It's about knowing, well, is this my stuff? Is it somebody else's stuff? It's about actually really tuning into your body as well.
And how do we know that? Because I get that question a lot. Like, how do we know if it's your energy or someone else's? Like, how would you explain the difference?
I think when it's someone else's energy, it has a different quality to it. And this is why meditation is such a good thing, because when we meditate, we completely shut down the external world. We go right inside and we really become familiar. Well, how does my stomach feel? How does my heart feel? How do my hands feel? We really sort of get to know our own sort of vibrations and the frequencies that we're kind of experiencing. And that's the most important thing, is noticing your own feelings. It's kind of tuning in, it maybe even doing yoga or just really getting into the body, because the problem with our modern world is there's so much distraction. And there's so many things that are constantly sort of vying for our attention and kind of pulling us away from our own feelings and emotions. So I think that's very important. And it was a great question.
It is, and I think too. Going sort of back, because we kind of sort of answered it. Then I did sort of interrupt you there, but it was kind of like, when it all becomes too much, like what do we do to kind of manage that when it does become a bit too much? I mean, you did say yoga and whatnot, but yeah.
And it's also about knowing, you don't have to have any particular, we all have different abilities and different sensitivities. But one thing we can all do is we can all have a dialogue, with our spirit guides. We can sort of say, can you please give me a sign? Can you show me the best way to manage other people's energy? And our spirit guides, they do respond. And it's also a question of figuring out what works best for you. Are you somebody who can tune into thoughts and know that those aren't your own thoughts? Are you somebody who can maybe spot signs in the external environment? Are you somebody who can really tune into feelings? So everybody is kind of unique in that sense, that we all have different ways of connecting with spirit. So that's why we really do need to get to know ourselves, because then we can really start to figure out, well, how can I really set up a dialogue with my divine connection? How can I set that dialogue up? What signs, how can I set up a communication here? I think that's the most, and everybody can do this. It's just a question of finding out what is it that works best for you.
100%, and perfectly said, by the way. And I think too, in everything that you've just said there, it's trusting. I think the biggest thing a lot of us don't do or forget to do or whatever, we forget to trust. So you might be getting the signs, but because you're not trusting them, you think you're not getting them.
That's absolutely right. And also emotional states can really block things. And it's ironic, because often the time that you most need some guidance or a sign, it's often when you're at your lowest ebb. You're kind of experiencing a lot of stress or whatever it is. And unfortunately, that does sometimes block out, but they do still find a way of getting in. and sometimes they will give you signs that it starts off quite subtle and then it just becomes really quite obvious.
Yeah,
um yeah.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I just, yeah, I was going to give an example, but I won't. But yeah, it's so true in a sense that there might be subtle signs to begin with, and whether we don't trust or we don't listen or we don't see it or just, from other distractions or whatever, but they do get louder and bigger until it's like until like it's either taken away from you or something actually stops you. Like the universe will never harm you to that extent, but they will do what they can to get you to pay attention. Whether it's taking a job away, taking a love away, whether it's give, like, do you know what I mean? Like they'll do something to make it clear.
That's absolutely right. So the more that we get to know ourselves and the more we trust ourselves and the more we pay attention, the I guess the easier it gets. But I also that, we all have sort of spirit animals as well. My one, which I eventually figured out, was spiders and dragonflies.
Uh-huh.
For me, and it's also to do with the way that you encounter them. So for me, with the spiders, I've kind of had warnings. If something was about to happen, it was just kind of a heads up. It's like, not to freak out, it's just a heads up. I would see a spider very, close proximity, kind of unexpectedly, and it'd be like, whoa, just a heads up. And
Ah.
dragonflies as well, just absolutely beautiful. Just that transformation, so it's really about, I mean, even things that we're just naturally drawn to, there's always a reason for that, and it's often spirit kind of finding a way of communicating with us.
Yeah, I totally. Mine's actually a really strange one. And it's not that you kind of ask, like, I mean, you didn't pick spiders or dragonflies, it chose you. But mine's, and it sounds so cliche and silly, but mine's love hearts. And not to do necessarily with always connecting to love, although there is a lot of self love messages when I do see them. But I will see a love heart, and I'm talking like there might be a stone shaped like one, or like, and this actually happened today, which is why it's fresh in my mind. But there was actually bird poo in the shape of a love heart when I was walking to the shops today.
I
So
love that, Michael. Yeah.
it's random, silly things like that. But it'll be if I see, and I'm not talking, perfect, but when you see something and straight away you resonate to what that is. So it may not look like a love heart to you, but I saw it as that. So that's
Yeah.
my little, and that's a new thing for me. It's probably in the last year or two I've started really noticing that I just see them everywhere. Um, yeah,
And I think because you have actually noticed it, something within you has paid attention, and it's something within you has been sort of awoken by that
yeah.
particular sign. And the funny thing is, because people often think, well, a dragonfly, they're only around at certain times of year, but this is not just an actual dragonfly or a spider or whatever. That they can appear in an advert. They could appear like on the side of a
Ah.
bus. They find a way, of of
And that's
of
that's that's really a good point, because especially if it's something like an animal or something physical like that, people, as you just sort of basically said, that you generally look for the actual physical aspect of the sign. But as you pointed out, they could be on the side of a bus, there could be bird poop on the floor, like it could be in the form of, and I'll stop saying poop, I promise. But it could be, in the form of something like that. It's whether, yeah, we do sort of pay attention. And I think too, what's your opinion on like asking for the signs?
I think that is very, if you're really wanting to have that dialogue, you're really wanting to have some kind of, communication, reassurance. I think asking for signs is a very important thing to do. We have to make our intentions clear. We have to make it, whatever we want to have happen. We don't always get what we want, but as long as we actually make that clear.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing too, is be clear. And spirit is very black and white. There's no sort of in between colors. It's like ask for what you want. Be clear. Don't be like, oh, I want this, but I need it like this. It's like that's fine, but be sort of direct and specific in what it is you're wanting. I think a lot of us potentially ask for signs, but our intention's a bit confused because it's like, oh, I would like this with a shade of this and a little bit of that. And spirit's like, well, but what do you really want? Just tell us. Just, you know, just make your intention clear as possible. I think a lot of people fall into that trap of overcomplicating what they're asking for, and then it doesn't kind of go the way they want because spirit's trying to work it out.
Yes, that's right. And again, it goes back to having that clarity of intention. It's always a lot easier to communicate with anybody, not just with spirit, but other human beings. It's always about having that clarity, and knowing exactly, what your intention is.
Exactly. And Joanne has actually said intentions are signs always guide us. A bit of some grammar there, but yeah, I think intentions do guide us, and it's whether we again listen, and pay attention to them. Galen has asked, due to, and I can't even pronounce that word, tinnitus, I think it is. I find it hard to meditate. Any suggestions on how to work with this?
I completely sympathise with you, Gayleen, because I also have tinnitus, and
Oh,
it's annoying.
okay. I don't even
It's
know what it is.
it's basically a ringing noise in your ear. Well, it can be ringing, or it could be like a high pitched noise,
Oh,
kind of
okay.
to do with like the nervous system. But what I try and do actually is listen to music, something that just masks the pitch of the tinnitus. I find that's really helpful, because yeah, I completely sympathize. It can be very annoying, but yeah, I think definitely finding some relaxing, soothing music that can help you to, just switch off from that.
I suppose too, with like the music shows, or the music sort of distracts you from the noise because you're listening to like the music. So I suppose that gives you something to focus on. Is that why it helps? Do you find?
Yeah, that's right. For me, with the tinnitus, listening to the music, I'm often able to sort of forget about the tinnitus, and the music also helps with the meditation as well. It can help you to sort of relax, and it can bring in those high vibe sort of
Mm.
frequencies.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to sort of just go back to sort of the beginnings with you. You mentioned about having that sort of science brain, that sort of science belief that you kind of talked about. Does that still kind of creep in today, and or like how has that challenged you having that sort of science brain and where you challenge things and everything has to be facts and all of that to now almost a complete opposite? How have you managed that kind of transition there, or do you still sometimes question things?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I was only thinking about this the other day, and I have just kind of, I guess, gone, I don't know, full circle really. I think as children, we kind of go with the flow, and children are obviously open and receptive. But then it's almost as if as we get older, we kind of develop these layers, and sometimes it can be layers of sort of skepticism or doubt, perhaps fear as well. And it's almost, for me anyway, it was about kind of peeling away from that and just having trust, having faith. And it's not an easy thing. It's not easy to
No.
have faith in something that's unseen, And even if you are getting sort of premonitions, or even if you're able to access other people's thoughts or feelings, or you can see things, connected to the future, even in that situation, sometimes it's just, oh wow, is this really happening? But it is. It's just spirit does ask us to have faith that could move mountains sometimes.
And it's 100%. And a lot of people, it doesn't really even really matter what your religious belief is, because it comes down to the same messages, in a sense that, if you believe, then it can be.
That's right. And I think also that there's so much about the human mind, that we have got so many capacities, so many potentials. And for whatever reason, we haven't tapped into them. We're sort of functioning in a lesser version of ourselves. But yeah, the mind is a very, very, very complicated thing. And there's so many different levels and layers of awareness that we could potentially have access to.
It's so true. It's so true. What do you say to, I'm sure you must get it, or have at some point, but what do you say to the skeptics now, being one yourself in the past?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't feel as if it's my place to try and convince anybody or try and convert anybody. We're all on a different journey, we're all on different pathways. And I think we have to respect our differences. We have to respect we're all unique expressions of the divine. So I just feel as if, if people are like-minded, then that's great. And if not, then we talk about things that, we can connect with. That's what I personally feel. I feel if people are ready for certain things, then they will be open to it. And if they're not ready, then, that's also fine.
Oh, 100%. Like I love, I'm not love the skeptics, but I also love the almost the irony behind when they do come across, because it's like you're not really a believer, or you say you're not, blah blah blah, but yet here you are, sort of in this field of watching a psychic or speaking to one. So it's like, I like to, as you said, like, let them go about their own journey and things like that. But I love the challenge aspect of it as well, because I kind of go, well, you're here, you're speaking, you say you're not a believer, but you're here, and something's brought you here. So, and they kind of, yeah, you see their mind kind of tick over, and you're like, yeah, okay, it's like, yeah, okay, you're not a believer, sure. Um, I've other stories I could say. Honestly, I need to do an interview on myself. Galen has thanked you for your response. I think she's going to go and try that. Madeline's also got ringing in her ear. She's also said, "What's this? Like a pebble on water, they cause the ripples in the water, and that pebble eventually becomes a brick, causing a huge impact in our life. Metaphorically speaking, if we ignore these little things along the way, they become a bigger problem and a bigger headache for us." Um, yeah, and that's so true. Like, I think I can't remember what we're talking about. We've talked about a lot already, but it's so true in regards to that ripple effect, as they say. It gets bigger and bigger from one little stone can cause such a big effect um, in our lives. But I think too it comes down to how we let it affect us as well. It can
That's
become
right.
bigger.
It can, and I think that what we also forget is that we're energy. Nothing in this world is solid. And it was actually my Reiki teacher who kind of told me that. Science. If you look at it at that level, nothing is. It's all just frequencies and vibrations, molecules, particles, atoms. It's just an illusion that the solidity. So I think we just need to remember that we don't actually need to literally do anything. It's just it's our energy, and it's, you know, I've heard stories about how groups of people together who meditate in areas with high crime levels can actually
Oh,
reduce the crime levels, um,
really?
because their energy is contributing to
Right, of
the
course.
area, and they're actually raising the vibration of that particular area. So without actually talking to anybody, or, you know, this is what's possible, and this is what we don't realize is that we're affect without actually even doing anything.
Yeah, definitely. We kind of lost you there for a second. We did talk about technology backstage before we went live, so you kind of cut out towards the end there, but I think we got most of it. Right when you're saying something important too. Um, but yeah, it's so true. How do you protect your energy?
Yeah, I mean, it's just with intention, really. It's just asking my spirit guides, please, you know, please be with me, please protect me. And also visualization is a very powerful thing. You can just in the mornings or in the evenings, or if you're having a shower or whatever, you can just visualize a very, very powerful white light around you. And it, you know, it does have a real, although people think, oh, visualizing, you know, is it really doing anything? But it is, and it's just having faith in that.
And I think too, just what you just said there about, as you said, people are visualizing. Does it really have an effect? Well, it does because of the intention, the intent that you're putting into it. So if you believe that it is, then as it will be, you know.
That's right. And there's different levels of consciousness, you know, there's different layers. So the visualization is sort of the astral plane where, you know, you can sort of visualize things, and then it's a question of pulling it down to the physical reality. But anything, any thoughts, they are real things, you know, they are, we just think thoughts just kind of disappear, and that's the end of it. But everything is linked.
It's so true. I mean, look, sometimes there are thoughts that just leave, and you know, again, a human thing. Um, but yeah, it's so true, and it's that again that ripple effect. You know, whatever. Same with manifestation. I'm sure you agree. You know, whatever you're putting out there, it's the attraction of what's going to come back.
That's right. And I think the thing with manifestation is that we also have to be, you know, it's the self-awareness, the self-understanding. It's like, well, whatever you're trying to manifest, do you really want this? You know, I mean, I look back on times in my life where I thought I really wanted something, and the universe didn't give it to me, but then I was relieved, you know, because I realized I'd actually
Ah.
dodged a bullet, you know. So it's also about being discerning. Sometimes what we think we want is not good for us. So it's kind of the process of, I guess, wisdom and self understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, because there'll be people watching going, well, how do I know the difference between what I think I need and what I actually don't? Because it's so true. Like, we think we want something and it may not be good for us or it may not be the right time, but how do we know? Like, how do we work that out, or do we just let it flow?
I think it does go back to that process of having faith and having trust. And things are, you know, things unfold at the right time. Sometimes we want everything now, you know, we want answers now and whatever. But sometimes we have to let we have to let time take care of things. And every situation is different, and that's what I love about the tarot as well, because it's about knowing, well, how do I deal with this situation? It's about knowing what's the energy of that situation, what are the dynamics of that situation. Is this situation showing an energy that's too stagnant? Is someone being very stubborn, or is this situation an energy where we need to be more yielding, or do we need to be more forceful and fiery in this situation? So obviously it's experience as well, but it's also understanding that every situation that unfolds in life, it has a combination of dynamics or sort of circumstances, and it's about knowing how best to act. And the I Ching is very good in that way, because it shows you what the energy is like, depending on the situation.
It's such I love how wise you are. You've clearly got experience, or you've definitely like gone through shit to really get to the level. But of course, having that sort of science background has probably helped you in some way, because you kind of can look at things from both sides almost.
I think that, I mean, we're very fortunate in the sense that we have access to so much. It's almost like
Yeah.
information
Google helps.
filters.
Yeah.
And especially with AI now as well, it's like,
Oh,
gosh, you'd need like several lifetimes to be able to get through it all. And also another thing that I think is amazing is the amount of courses that you can do now. Like you can do a $10 course on
that's
many,
true.
many different aspects of spirituality. A lot of things are really kind of opening up. Things that in the past would have been a bit more restricted, or it might have been a bit more difficult to access those teachings. But nowadays, the world's your oyster.
It's so true. Everything is so readily available to us, which is yeah. We didn't have. I mean, I didn't have that sort of growing up, so it would have definitely helped me learning the gift as I was kind of trying to work it out, because now it is a bit easier to get some questions answered, and there's a lot more people sort of doing this. There's more mentors, so there's more people you can ask as well, which helps as well. And good to see you there. She's going to watch this from the start. I know Chantal is going to do that as well. A lot of people are really loving the conversation tonight. They're actually going to go back and rewatch um, to get more information. Madeline's asked an interesting question. She'd like to know your thoughts on the fifth elements: air, water, fire, earth, and spirit.
Yeah, so I do see that, every situation is kind of made up of a combination of those elements. And sometimes it's a question of figuring out, and this is where the tarot is quite helpful. It's a question of figuring out, well, which element is out of balance? Is somebody using too much firepower here? Or is it the water element? Are the emotions just overwhelming? Do we need to really get back to, the practicality? Or is the earth element out of balance and everything's just gone really, everything's slowed down, and, it's a real waiting game. So I think that's why the tarot is good, because you can have lots of sort of psychic sort of impressions and feelings and sensations. And I also like the tarot because it basically matches whatever frequency best fits that situation. I think is the kind of the easiest way to look at it. So whatever card shows up is the card that best matches the frequencies of the situation that you're dealing with. So I find that in some ways it's kind of quite straightforward in that way.
Yeah, I love that. You sort of talked a little bit about that mediumship. Um, message that you got with the little boy, and you went into details about that, which I absolutely loved. That was quite detailed. I'm just wondering, is there another reading that you've done, or another um, either a Reiki session or something that you like, a message that you've given that's still stuck with you to today?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of readings actually. I've done them kind of in person, I've done them online, I've done them on the phone. So yeah, I mean, gosh, there's, there's been so many. I mean, there was one in particular that stuck in my mind. And it was quite a unique situation because what had happened was, because of my health issues, I've basically had ongoing health challenges, and I was in a support group. It's always good to connect with people who are sort of going through what you're going through. And this lady was very helpful, and she was very, sort of reassuring and very positive, and she was sort of, we were talking about some of the symptoms that we both had and whatever else. And then what was so strange, what was very, very weird, was a few months later, I had a request for a reading, and she had no idea that I was, doing psychic readings, or that I had any psychic connection of any kind. And she was in a bit of a desperate situation. She really needed to sort out her accommodation situation. There was some problems. There was some uncertainty as to whether she would have to move out, and she was just really looking for some reassurance. And so I did the reading, and then we, we we just couldn't believe that I had sort of connected with her in this group, and then we'd randomly sort of reconnected a few months later. And I was able to sort of reassure her, because I could see that, there was a lot of stress around her accommodation situation, but I could also see that somebody was going to be able to help her. There was somebody who had some influence, and this person was going to help her. So that was really weird. It was a really weird sort of twist
Wow.
of fate.
And a real, like, we said this before about the full circle movement, but it was almost like, again, like just coming full circle with that.
Exactly. That's absolutely right. And it was just the chances of that happening. Um, and I've done quite a lot of different readings as well. Like I've done all kinds of readings. There was one lady who she really wanted to know if she would be getting the job that she had applied for. It was sort of a freelance design job. And what was strange about that was, I knew that she was going to get the job, but there was some stress around it. And I kind of, it was very sort of quick. It was like the energy was just poof, it was just, so I said, yes, you will get the job, but there's going to be something to sort of work through. And, and then she came back to me literally 2 days later, and she'd actually been fired, like, after 24 hours. So
Oh no.
yeah, so I think it was kind of a freelance job, and maybe somebody in house had actually said, look, I can do this work, or I don't know, whatever it was. But yeah, so that was a strange one, because I could see that she was getting the job, but it
But there
it
was, yeah,
wasn't very.
didn't last long.
No, exactly. And I also had a client, she had set up a business, and everything was going really well. It was a successful business. She was really happy with what she was doing. And then, of course, COVID hit, and
Oh, okay. Can almost
everything,
sort of shut down. Yeah.
it was
What
just like the.
yeah, yeah, COVID just, yeah, that's a whole nother show. Just before we wrap up, what sort of general advice or quote or something that you just want to give to everyone watching before we leave?
I think what I would say is, trust your intuition. Is Yeah, self-awareness, is tune into yourself, get to know your innermost feelings. try and be friends with them, even if some of them are quite challenging. But definitely trust yourself, and try and set up that dialogue with spirit. Speak to your spirit guides, even if you can't hear them, even if you can't see them. Just have conversations with them. Just ask them to give you signs. All of those things. Yeah, to thine own self be true. Yeah, I think.
I love that. I could just sit and listen to you all night. I really could. You've just got so much, as I said, wisdom and just history. Like there's just, it's like you've lived a full life.
Yeah, I've had a few challenges, but then again, who hasn't, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? The challenges are what make you who you are, and you know
Yes.
yeah, without them, you wouldn't have the knowledge or the experience. So it's you know, at the time they don't look like blessings, but they kind of are after.
That's absolutely right. And it's those areas of ourselves where we have the greatest fear, the greatest shame, the parts of ourselves that we really want to sort of lock away. Those are the parts of ourselves that have hold the key, that have the real treasure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on tonight. I'll definitely have you back at some point in the near future.
Thank
But
you for
again, thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you. And of course, people can connect with you on the phone lines as well.
Yes, I'll be on the phone lines now. So yeah,
Oh,
looking
perfect. Oh,
forward.
that's so. If you want a reading with Louise, if you've liked what she said tonight, um, jump on the phone lines and give her a call because you won't regret it. Again, thank you so much. I'll let you go.
Thank you, Michael.
That's all right. And thank you to everyone who has watched tonight. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. It's so good to see you, Madeline, Gayleen, Veronica. Yeah, it was a really good session tonight. I actually was surprised. It's when you don't know someone, you don't know what you kind of are going to expect. You know, Louise is brand new. I've never spoken to her. She only joined Psychic TV 2-3 weeks ago, so she is brand new to our platform. So, you know, generally the psychics that I have coming on the Thursday shows, I generally know a little bit about them already, but I knew nothing about Louise, so I was excited to get to know her, and definitely learned a lot. I do love her quotes. I love my own quotes as well. Um, One of my biggest quotes is "Be a voice and not an echo." So that's something that I live by, you know. But thank you to everyone that has watched tonight. You can go to psychictv.com and get a reading with our beautiful psychics. I know Louise is going to jump on. We currently have Blessed Beth available on pin 9150 and Natalie Norm Baker on 9810. And of course, Louise will be jumping on very soon as well. Thank you to everyone that has jumped on tonight. I am back at this Saturday for Psychic TV with Terry. So you can get your free mini readings this Saturday night. So 8 o'clock on Saturday, Australian Eastern Time, I will be back hosting Psychic TV with Terry as the guest psychic. And of course, I am back next Thursday as always. Who I believe my guest is Joyce. I'm pretty sure it's Joyce. So Joyce will be quite an interesting chat. She's got a wealth of experience. So she's been in the industry for well over 30 years, has probably seen it all, lived it all. So make sure you join on next week. I'm back on this Saturday with Terry as a guest psychic. Thank you to everyone that has watched tonight. I hope you've gained something, and I will see you when I see you.